Joker Folie À Deux certainly had a lot to live up to. The first Joker movie that came out in 2019 received critical acclaim. For its time, it had been the highest-grossing R-rated movie until being dethroned this year by Deadpool and Wolverine. And it also won Joaquin Phoenix his first Academy Award after many nominations across his great career. And what made Joker so special was that it seemed to tell a full story. Unlike what we get with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we focused on a character and we told his story in the length of a normal film. But when a low-budget movie grosses $1 billion at the box office, you bet the Hollywood studios want to capitalize on that and make a sequel. Joker only had a budget of around $70 million, whereas this movie reportedly had a budget of $210 million. And before I go into any of the details of what I thought on the movie, the fact that it had such a higher budget didn't really come across in my opinion. Yes, the film looks great and it has great actors and great performances in it, but this film didn't need a budget of $200 million. I don't know where that money went. Probably just to pay Joaquin Phoenix insane salary, considering he won an Oscar for the last one and the film grossing as much as it did. I did feel like this was an unnecessary sequel, but considering I really enjoyed the film that came out in 2019, I was willing to give this a chance, and the fact it was revealed that this was a semi-musical when it was announced had me intrigued even more. I felt like this element could play really well into Arthur Fleck's psyche and would make sense in the context of the movie. And this film certainly isn't a musical, it has musical numbers, and a lot of people have commented that the musical numbers could have easily just been dialogue scenes, and I do agree with that. But this kind of added a flair to the story that I found entertaining and kind of broke up the pace of the film, in a good way that is. All the musical numbers play as part of Arthur Fleck's delusions within the confines of the story, and they make sense in the context of the film, though I do feel like they were thrown in there just because Lady Gaga was appearing in the film as Harley Quinn. And had the Harley character been played by a different actress, for example, I feel they may have scrapped this musical element completely and focused more on the story that just unfolds on the screen as it is. Once again, Joaquin Phoenix delivers a great performance portraying Arthur Fleck and Joker. We get to see him really delve into the psyche of this character, playing both the crazed, outgoing, entertaining Joker in a really fun way, and then playing the more vulnerable Arthur Fleck, and that's where he really gets to show off his vulnerabilities as an actor. This character we've obviously seen before in the first film, and it is covering some old ground, but it is great to see Joaquin Phoenix work in this world. And overall, throughout the runtime of the film, I wasn't bored by it, and I was intrigued by what the story was trying to do, and I didn't have a negative experience at the cinema overall. However, this film is not beyond criticism, and there's a fair amount of criticism. Whilst I enjoyed my 2.5 hours of watching the movie, I feel like this was still an unnecessary sequel, and almost the story and the plot of Joker Folie À Deux undermines the character development we got in the first movie, and I feel like it's a regression of the character towards the end of the film at least, and I found that somewhat disappointing. The musical numbers, despite being entertaining and staged well enough and flashy enough, they just lacked the punch. We kind of got the repeats of songs that had already appeared in the film, and I feel like maybe if they lent into this a bit more, they could have had a bit more fun with how the film played out. But overall, I don't feel like the musical element of the film ruined the experience of watching it at all. Lady Gaga, who plays Harley Quinzel in this, does a good enough job. I don't think she's in the film that much. I don't feel she phoned in the performance at all, but I just feel the character was lacking somewhat for me, and it didn't engage with me as much as what Joaquin's Joker was doing across the first film. So much of her character relied on the musical element of the story that it kind of made her character redundant outside of that, in my opinion. So maybe that's something, had they either lent into it heavier, it could have been improved, or if they had scrapped that completely and had an actress not known for singing in the role, it could have played out a lot differently. And I feel like the overall sense of the plot may have paid off more if they had done that instead of having the musical elements to the film. There is a good enough job in creating and crafting this world of an alternate Gotham City, which is set in New York, as well as bringing back some of the original cast and then adding to the cast with some new actors. That worked fine, but to me, Joaquin Phoenix was the standout as he was in the first film, and no one other than Joaquin Phoenix in this stands out as like the top tier actor. Although I did enjoy watching Brendan Gleeson play this guard role, who is quite menacing and does have this sort of friendship with Arthur Fleck across the movie, although that does turn quite dark towards the end. The way the film ends, I feel, is going to upset a lot of people, and I'm not going to discuss what that is, but I feel like the ending we are given kind of defeats the whole purpose of the first film and kind of betrays the intention of crafting this film about Joker in the first place. And considering Todd Phillips, the film's director, is not going to do another movie. He's breaking away from DC now, and he won't do a third Joker movie, nor do I feel like they'll go down the route of doing a third Joker movie. As much as I enjoyed the film to an extent of going out for the afternoon and sitting in the cinema and just engaging with that content, I am very let down by where the story goes and where it ends for Arthur's story. I feel like Arthur Fleck was an intriguing character presented in the first film, and whilst we got to peel back some of that in this, he basically ends up as a regressed version of himself than what we see in the first movie. And I feel like that betrays everything the first film did, and it almost betrays what the Joker character is in the first place. I'm not too fussed about the fact that this is a comic book adaptation and it was adapting the Joker character. I feel they did a great job with that in the first film in terms of how it played out, but this seems to be a simple cash grab, and they didn't really give it much thought about where this film was going, and I feel like they could have ended it in a much different way and maybe set up a sequel to kind of conclude Arthur Fleck's story in a more compelling way. So overall, I am very disappointed with how this film ends and the journey Arthur Fleck goes on after seeing such a triumphant film in Joker from 2019. But I didn't hate the movie. I don't feel it deserves a 39% rating on Rotten Tomatoes at the moment. I suppose looking at it, I don't regret going to the cinema to watch it because I had a good enough time engaging with the content, but maybe if I look back at the legacy of the first film and this film, I will look at the first film differently and in a more negative light, and I feel like that's a very disappointing way to look at something that was so interesting, fun, and different to what I'm used to in films. But if you're expecting what we got from the first film times 2, you're not going to get that with this film, unfortunately. And if you're a fan of the comics, I'm not sure you'll like it this much, especially if you didn't like the first film. And I feel like if you were just okay on the first film, you're not going to like this film at all. So unless you're really keen to see where this story goes, I'd probably give this film a miss, unfortunately. I am interested in what other people think about Joker Folie À Deux, so let me know in the comments below. Give this video a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and make sure to click the bell icon to receive notifications for all of my future videos. That's it for now, thanks for tuning in.